Okay, so this will be the respiratory lab. You have the list of structures in your lab for Unit 4. You have a place to write the functions, excuse me. The functions will be in your lecture notes for Chapter 22. So don't go start digging around and getting irritated because you can't find them because there's not a table. They're in your lecture notes. Okay, so diagrams that you have in your handout. Again, you'll have to look at these multiple times and you may have to blow them up to see what I'm pointing to more clearly. All right, so the external nares are the two openings here. So this would be an external nares. The nasal vestibule is this area here. Then you have the three conchi or three turbinates, and I don't care which ones you use. This is the superior conchi or turbinate. This is the medial conchi or turbinate. This is the inferior conchi or turbinate. You have the hard palate. See if I can do this better. So it extends to here. And then the soft palate is here. Okay, then you have the sections of the pharynx. Oops, wrong side. Okay, so nasopharynx, you use the pharyngeal tonsils and the distal end of that soft palate. So all of that would be the nasopharynx. Okay, this would be the oropharynx, all the way down to where the glottis starts. And then from there down to even with the cricoid cartilage is the laryngopharynx. Okay, there we go. Laryngopharynx. And the laryngopharynx is continuous with the esophagus. Okay. Then you have the parts of the larynx. You have the epiglottis with the membrane. You also have the epiglottis here, here, and here again. Then you have the thyroid cartilage here. You have the thyroid cartilage here. I know you don't have this as a picture, but you have a model that looks like this. So all of that would be the thyroid cartilage. In the mid-sagittal, it's here. The cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage. So you could essentially say it's this cuff, doesn't form a line, but it's this first ring there and here. The vocal cords are this slit here in the mid-sagittal view. Here you have the intact respiratory tract. This is the trachea. On the diagram that you have, it doesn't have the heart, but it comes down to here and then it branches into the primary or the secondary or primary bronchi first. There we go. Primary bronchi, primary bronchus for singular. And actually, it's going to come down farther because all three secondary bronchi come off of that. So here in this picture, with and without the lungs, you can see the thyroid cartilage here. The cricoid cartilage here, and the trachea here. All right, so you can see part of this primary bronchus, and you can see this primary bronchus. Over here, without the lungs in place, you can see the primary bronchi. And then you can see a little bit of this tertiary, or not tertiary, secondary bronchus or lobar bronchus. Secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus. You don't see them over here because the lung's in place, but you can see secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus. Okay, then you have the lobes of the lung. So superior lobe of the left, or the right lung, superior lobe of the right lung, medial lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung. You have to put inferior, superior, or medial with lobe, and you have to put right and left with lung. So you could say, instead of naming the lobe first, you could name the lung. So left lung, superior lobe, right lung, inferior lobe. Then you have the muscles. Here you have the diaphragm, in this picture. The diaphragm would sit here. Okay. Then you have the internal and external intercostal muscles. They always extend from one rib to the next. So these would be the external intercostal muscles because they're closer to the surface. These are the internal intercostal muscles because they're deeper. Okay, So then the models. Again, you may have to blow these up. This one happens to have a key that's included. So you can see the external nares, nasal vestibule, the superior conchi or concha, in medial concha, inferior concha, hard palate, soft palate, the nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, you can see the epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and vocal folds or vocal cords. You can see the beginning of the trachea. You can see the beginning of the primary bronchi, but you don't get to see deeper than that. You can see the 3 lobes of the right lung. So right lung, superior lobe, medial lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung. You can see a little bit of the diaphragm. Over here, this is a microscopic picture. And so these are the bronchioles. Okay, another model. You can again see bronchioles. You can see the nasal vestibule. It doesn't really show the nasal, the external nares. You can see the superior conchior turbinate, the medial conchior turbinate, and the inferior. You can see the hard palate and the soft palate. Got the nasopharynx, laryngopharynx, or oropharynx. What am I thinking? And laryngopharynx, You can see the epiglottis. You can kind of see the thyroid and cricoid cartilages, but I wouldn't do them there. I would come down here, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, trachea, primary bronchus, secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus, secondary bronchi. Over here, you can see part of the trachea, part of one primary bronchus. I don't use that thing for the secondary bronchi. Superior lobe of the right lung, medial lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung, and this would be the diaphragm. This one's going to look like your diagram, external nares, nasal vestibule, superior concha, medial concha, inferior concha, nasopharynx, hard palate, soft palate, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, although it doesn't show you both parts. I guess my picture cut it off. And vocal cords. Okay, so thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, trachea, superior lobe of the right lung, medial lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung, superior lobe of the left lung, superior lobe of the right lung, and all of this would be the diaphragm. When you peel this off, you can see the epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, vocal cords. Down here, you can see the distal end of the trachea. If I move that out of the way, you can see the primary bronchi, secondary bronchi. You don't see them much here. Oops. Okay, this is our larynx model. You could see the thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage. It's covered up by muscle here. Epiglottis without the mucous membrane. A little bit of the epiglottis. Distal end of the epiglottis. Epiglottis. And then for the vocal cords, this one is broken, but here you can see the vocal cords intact with the minor cartilages there. And then, of course, down here would be the trachea. On the full muscle model, you can see the external nares. You can see the superior lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung. Medial lobe of the right lung, inferior lobe of the right lung, left lung, superior lobe, left lung, inferior lobe. You can see a little bit of the diaphragm. You can see the external intercostals and the internal intercostal muscles. You can see the diaphragm. You can see the distal end of the trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus, secondary bronchus. Okay, so that is the end of the respiratory models or the respiratory structures. Again, don't forget to go into the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed program so that you can see cadaver pictures of all those structures as well and use that testing tool. Again, don't forget that you can blow this up to see it closer to what I pointed to. So you can see the difference between the internal intercostals and the external intercostals. Hopefully you remember that that's the pectoralis minor, but this right here would be the external intercostal muscles.